Hello, friends, and welcome into another episode of Beyond Hiawatha as we continue to celebrate what the Lord has done, continues to do, and hopefully will do in the days ahead at our new Allegan location. And I know this, that when you talk to anybody from the last, let's say, 30 years of Hiawatha Youth Camp, one of the universally beloved staff alumni is a guy who may have spent more time climbing up in the trees than he did on terra firma. And we connect today with him in Thailand, where Ben Collins and his family have been serving the Lord as missionaries on the other side of the world. In fact, for those of you who are watching the video version on YouTube, you may notice a little bit of lag here and there because, well, he's on the other side of the world. I'm at 9 a.m. Ben, you're at 9 p.m. And it's so good to see you, man. How are you?
Oh man, thanks for asking. It's great to be here. I'm doing great. I feel great. We have Barnabas, our new son, is 6 months old, and he is absolutely a joy. Just a little squish ball. Life is 8 now. Sonny's 6. Beatrix is 5. We got a full house. Um, Tons of energy. I'm halfway through some of my treatments and stuff. I've been feeling pretty good. Very low side effects and everything. Pretty much life is normal in some ways, which is good because we got a lot of stuff coming up as a family.
You do, and I want to get into all of that story, including what you personally have been through from a medical standpoint. But I'd first like to kind of roll the clock back to young Ben Collins as part of this awesome lineage, this heritage of the Collins family pouring into Hiawatha Youth Camp. And if we did a podcast, well, actually, we could have a separate podcast just named Collins at Hiawatha and never run out of guests. For you, do you remember your first introduction to the place and then to the idea of serving on staff?
Yeah, I couldn't place the actual time, but I remember I think it was probably around a pastor's conference. My dad would bring us up there and we'd stay in one of the cabins. And it wasn't regular camp wasn't happening. So my first memories of Hiawatha were always the place. Every time I walked past that hallowed ground of the softball field. It's like one of those old movies where you see the guy, he goes into a dark stadium at night and he's got all these memories playing. The lights are on, the crack of the bat, the crowd's cheering. I hear all the voices echoing over the years, but I still see it when I see that softball field. And obviously, as a kid's paradise, right? Going down to the pond and into the lagoon with Chandler trying to catch the ancient old snapping turtles and everything. So my first times at Hiawatha were a lot of falling in love with just the nature and the sereneness of it all.
It's so
Um,
funny you mentioned
but
the turtles in
uh,
the lagoon and things like that, because those are the memories that pop back for so many people who had that sense of nature and adventure. And I'm not kidding when I said that it was not uncommon at all to just find Ben Collins up in a tree. I don't know what piece you found up in the trees, but man, you've got a skill set that I certainly never possessed.
it's something about the trees up there. They're easier to climb, I think. But it was all those counselor hunt nights whenever David or PJ or whoever was the athletic director, I said, tell everybody I'll be up in a tree, make me worth more points, please. And I don't know if I was ever caught. There might be a camper or two that says, I think I saw Ben Collins up in a tree once, but they didn't.
One of the things, excuse me, one of the things that we have celebrated on this podcast since it started was the lasting relationships, those friendships that they'll just be here forever until we're all called to glory. And they, so many of them started at Hiawatha. As you kind of look back and see how the Lord has used other people in your life since way back then, are you still close with some of the people that you served with on staff that you're not related to?
Yeah, obviously being in Thailand, there's always a bit of distance in some of the relationships, but even going one step further past just the friendships of it. For me, one of I think the most impactful things about being in and around Hiawatha was all of the older staff members who really gave me the time of day and poured into me. And especially these are my first role models, some of my first, men I'm seeing 5 or 6 years older than me, maybe not on the peer level, but I'm looking up to saying, wow, like this is what it means to be a man. This is what it means to be a man of God.
Mm.
This is what it means to hit a home run. From watching DJ Malone smack some over the trees and just like, I want to do that. So some of my first, idols in some way, what I wanted to accomplish is, and it was so amazing how much time, and I don't know why, I couldn't tell you why. I was just a scrawny kid back in the day. I don't know what they were doing, but so many people stopped to talk to me and to really push me along on my journey. And I think I grew a lot in confidence. Yeah, there throughout my time. So and I've stayed in touch. I would consider anybody a friend. And I would love to see anybody from all of my years at Hiawatha. I feel like we'd catch up just like no time has passed.
What is it about a place like that that just feels so right when you're there? And by the way, I think it feels the same way even if you're at a different geographic location. There's some mystique to the way the Holy Spirit invades a ministry like Hiawatha. And although the terrain, the property would be more familiar at the place where we all served, there's still that powerful moment when you step on the grounds and you realize that special things are happening here. What is that all about? How do you define that?
I do feel it. I don't know if I know how to define it, but I can tell you that I feel it and I've always felt it taking that last curve around the dusty roads, getting into the grounds and just feeling like, yeah, immediately you're hit with the memories of the moments, those deep, tender moments on a Tuesday night or a fireside chat, or to the hyped excitement of all the crazy stuff going on, marathon games and different things like that. But there's something so special about just taking that time. I mean, what kind of group of people gets together for an entire week to spend time together anymore nowadays? And it's just you don't get that kind of time with people. You'd be happy to get half an hour catch up here or there twice a month or something. And so to say we're going to take 5 days of our time as a camper and spend an entire week, my only agenda is what they tell me is happening next. I'm going to get excited about it, and that's just a super special thing that it just doesn't happen very often. And obviously, as a staffer later, when you're giving an entire summer with other people, you're building something together and holding a line together is something that's very, very special.
Have you introduced marathon softball to the people of Thailand?
Softball, it was tough. It was tough going. I played one softball game here in Bangkok, and that was it. It was not the same, but I like to think it would catch on if I gave it enough of a try.
Well, fill in the blanks for us, if you would, on how Ben Collins ended up in Thailand. How did you feel the call of the Lord on your life to serve there and bring your family along and actually have your family there?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. No secret, my dad was on staff, and actually, um, the story goes he was caught on a rainy night as the night watchman, and he was see through the rain. He was crying, and he said, "I think I'm going to be a missionary." So he did. I grew up in Bangladesh, so when I came back to the States when I was 8, I felt, I could be anywhere. I didn't have to stay in Grand Rapids or stay in Michigan. I think that I could end up anywhere, and I carried that with me for a long time. And then obviously my time at Hiawatha, uh, every week was, give God the first at bat in your life, give him the blank sheet of your life. Every month, every summer was something different where I was hearing that message over and over again, and starting to consider colleges and everything. And it really hit me, you know, life is so short. We're not guaranteed tomorrow, and there's so many needs around the world, and you know there's no such thing as the perfect missionary. We all have to consider how are we created, what relationships do we have, what experiences do we have, and there was a lot and happened in my life that felt like I could end up anywhere. So I started looking at some of the. I stayed in contact with ABWE, the organization I'm with now, and I had done some traveling, been to some different countries, and through research realized there's still countries out there where, in America, if somebody isn't a Christian, it's because they've heard and they reject, or maybe they think that they have. But there's countries out there where people have actually legitimately never heard a clear, presentation of the gospel. And not only that, but you can go and live there and make life work there and share the gospel with people. And that caught my attention.
Hmm.
Obviously, Asia was on my mind, but not so interested in going back to Bangladesh where I grew up. And your options are somewhat limited where you can actually go openly. And Thailand surrounded by, Myanmar and Laos, Cambodia, Vietnam. Malaysia, China, a lot of countries, Indonesia, where you can't really go openly or it's not very friendly. Uh, and Thailand has, I actually have a visa, a missionary visa, like a religious affairs visa to be here in Thailand. And it's a free country in terms of worshiping. And so that really caught my eye. The other thing for me when I was in college, I found out a person I knew was moving to start a ministry in Thailand. And I know that who you're working with is pretty much as important as where you're going. And he was a fun guy, funny guy, had a good sense of humor, didn't take himself too seriously, and was building something really interesting. Because I didn't expect, I don't have all the theological training. I don't have necessarily all the skill sets. I would like to get out there first and then kind of build those skills while I'm out there. And he was okay with that. So as a sophomore at Cedarville University, and he kind of gave me his elevator pitch, and I said, "Okay, done. Rest of my life, Thailand. I'm working with you. Let's do this thing."
Wow.
And then for a couple of years, for the rest of college, I said, "God, this is an opportunity. I feel like it matches with how you've created me, the needs in the world. Like I want to do this. It would be great. Like close the door if you don't want me there." And he never did. I graduated and found a church that would be my sending church, and so joined right after college and then took about 2 years to raise support. So graduated actually January 2008, graduated and then joined ABWE July and then left in 2010. So October 2010, left for Bangkok. And
I can't believe it was
thinking at first, maybe, yeah,
wild.
yeah, I thought I would just be there maybe for a couple of years to kind of learn the language, prove myself a little bit. And I never, people were so generous and my support has always been stable and most amazing people taking care of us. So yeah, so I came out here single, and then I knew Susie briefly from Cedarville. She came out as a teacher 3 years later, and then we got married in 2017. And then life has sped up since then a little bit. So had at least 5 kids, and then yeah, some other fun things along the way too. So that's how we've been out here.
That must have been one fantastic elevator speech that your friend made that had you decide right then and there, I am in. Obviously, there
Yeah,
was a prompting from the Lord that was a part of that as well. And you come from this family background of mission work and pastoral work, and so it's not like you went home to talk to the family and they said, "What, have you lost your mind?" Right? It was kind of part of what frequently happens within the family. And at the same time, I'm kind of wondering if there was a little, I don't know, seed of encouragement or prompting that might have been planted during one of those Thursday night Billy Walker messages over the years as well, with this call to go serve the Lord. It's hard to, it may be hard to, kind of assign the motivation, but do you remember those moments at all and feeling the Lord kind of prompting you?
absolutely. I think probably by my second year on staff, every Thursday night I was uh, maybe until I was saying, but you don't have to keep on coming up here, Ben. We get it, almost kind of thing. I was going up there and saying, yeah, give God the first chance. And I always had that mindset. If I can do full time ministry, then I will. Done. That's the first option, the first thing on my mind. And so that was many years affirming that at Hiawatha, where I felt that prompting for, you know what, I actually need to step up. And it was more than that. There was those talks on Thursday nights, but it was those mentors, those guys that I looked up to, kind of saying like, you can do things, you can do this. You're growing up and you can make decisions. And I felt a confidence there to serve the Lord that maybe I wouldn't have had on my own otherwise. So there was a lot of encouragement
Yeah.
along the way.
I have this un um, probably immature belief that missionaries should have a get out of pain free card, especially when I told this to Mark Woodard a few weeks ago on this very podcast, knowing what he and his family had gone through years ago with their son, Brant. I've always just had this, it should be like an automatic deal that you've made with God. That is, I'm going to go serve you on the other side of the world. But you got to exempt me from the real life things that come along because I've already made this commitment to you. I understand that that's not how life works and that it's incredibly ridiculous to think that way. But every time I hear of one of my missionary friends going through some really, really difficult times, I always kind of flash back to that little, man, it's angst or something. I don't know what it is on your behalf. And for Ben and Susie, those moments have been very real. Um, I don't even know where to start with that, but let's start personally with Ben because when you hear people throw around the phrase, "Hey, man, it's not brain surgery." Well, in Ben's case, it was, and you're not done with all of that yet. So, can you take people as much as you're comfortable through your personal journey, and then we'll talk more about the family here in the moments ahead.
Yeah. Um, I always joked around that I never got sick. I would always tell people, I think I was 18 years old the last time I got sick, and I just lived in Bangkok, thought I was a picture of health until one night I fell asleep and had a Susie woke up to me having a massive seizure, like a 5-minute seizure, and there's blood on the pillow because I bit through my tongue a little bit. Not, I didn't bite it off or anything, but I wasn't responsive. So she was, trying to wake me up and eventually called their friend. They rushed me to the hospital. The scan was a brain tumor. Um, so it's called an oligodendroglioma. It's a tumor that starts in the brain. It doesn't come from anywhere else. It's kind of random. It's not genetic or anything like that. It just started, and so from having the seizure, Susie's, we have 2 kids, and she's pregnant with Beatrix, our third at the time. She's seeing her husband, in the middle of Bangkok, rushed to the hospital, find out this is our new reality. So we had surgery 48 hours later. I was on so many anti-seizure medications. I only have spotty memories. Basically, I fell asleep and woke up a week later with everybody telling me what had happened. But the surgery was, successful, or as successful as we didn't realize exactly what that meant at the time. We thought, okay, is that the end of it, or what does that mean? It turns out there's not what I have. There's not a cure for it. So you can get out. The first step is always get out as much of the tumor as possible, and then kind of monitor it. So right at the time, they didn't call it cancer. It was grade 2. So we went with a wait and see. I was back to pretty much life as normal a month, maybe a month and a half after the surgery, which is wild. There was no weakness, or I didn't have to relearn how to walk or talk or anything like that. It was kind of crazy. So it felt really strange that my life has completely changed, but also it feels exactly the same. And so we walked through that for a while, decided, not to do any, they didn't even really offer radiation or chemo or anything like that. So, did that about a year and a half later. One of my, I'm feeling good at the time. I walk into the office after my regular MRI and just said, hey doc, good to see you again. How's it going? He just kind of said, why don't you take a seat? And so his version of the story is that it was growing back. I still feel like maybe he didn't get it all out to begin with, and I'm still not mad at him. It took 2 surgeries. Eventually, we did the second surgery, and got the rest of or most of the rest of the tumor out. He said it's kind of like getting put jelly on toast, then try to get the jelly off the toast.
Mm.
You can't really do that, in the same way. But same thing again after that. There was no change in the tumor, so it was another 3.5 years that we lived again pretty normally. Um, had another kid, and it was not until my scan in beginning of June, or maybe mid-June of last year, that they said, like for sure, it's growing back and pretty quick. Like it's almost guaranteed that it'll be like a stage 3. So I had the surgery, a third brain surgery in Bangkok. So I always like to say I can totally win the 2 truths and a lie every time now. With I had brain surgery in Bangkok, so that's don't play that with me. I'll win every time.
So,
So
all right.
yeah.
So, just in like a moment of personal reflection between you and Susie, did you ever have that same feeling like I just expressed? Like, Lord, what do you want from us? Here we are in Thailand, and now this is happening. I mean, I know you're far more spiritually mature than I am, but those moments, would have to creep up at some
Yeah,
point.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, there are times where if I cleaned it up, the best of the prayer I could get out was, "What in the world, God?
Yeah.
Seriously? Actually, seriously?" And not it's related to everything, not just my health at the time. There's just a lot going on, but yeah, true. Like, I must have lost that get out of pain free card in my luggage on the way out to Thailand the first time around. Um, but it's the amazing thing is there's still so much to be grateful for, so much to be thankful for. Honestly, I'm not, saying that as a platitude, but even some people with the same kind of uh, tumor that I have, okay, they can't get a surgery because it's touching the optic nerve, they'll go blind. Somebody else is too close to something else, they would go be paralyzed. The fact that I've been able to have three surgeries in Bangkok at a quality place and have virtually no side effects is something to be grateful for. Like the fact that I've been able to still be the dad that I kind of want to be for my kids that was always my biggest fear, or one of my biggest fears. It's like, am I gonna, stuff in the brain can turn you weird or can change your personality and stuff. Am I gonna be the kind of guy that I would want around my kids? Am I gonna change too much or something? And so there's all sorts of that doubt, disillusionment. Are we gonna actually get through this? This is side note here, but there's this artist I love, Andrew Peterson. He's a singer-songwriter and had this song called "We Will Survive." And he just says, tell me about the sun that's going to rise again. Tell me the story that I still need to hear. And so preaching that gospel, just a simple gospel. We're still, we're deeply loved. We're sinners, but we're deeply loved sinners. And yeah, there is no get out of pain free card for any of us. And we've gone through, the ringer. We've gone through our stuff, but so many people have in their ways too. And so I think it's really served to help with empathy. Just kind of slowed me down a lot. I used to be a pretty energetic, optimistic, maybe sarcastic sometimes kind of person, and I think I've slowed down a lot. Just said, there's there's a lot of people are dealing with a lot of issues. There's a lot of pain and a lot of hurt, right, in the world, and so I don't feel like I'm at a spot where I don't have anything to offer to people who are in that position. If anything, I can say, yeah, I've been there, and it does hurt, and there is another side.
Yeah. I saw a video, I think you may have sent it to David, of you on a motorbike driving through the streets of Bangkok. It was one of the most terrifying things I've ever seen in my life. I have no idea how you've navigated that culture just from a safety standpoint on the roads. And then I thought, there's no way that the Lord has brought him through multiple brain surgeries to let him get taken out on the back of a motorbike. And at the same time, we realize that while you're going through all of these things medically, physically, emotionally, relationally within your family, there's still ministry that takes place, right? You really, you're all the way over there. It's not like you're going to just curl up in a ball and stop serving the Lord. But has it been difficult to continue doing those things while you've also been dealing with radiation and chemo and a doctor telling you, yeah, we're going to do this, but you might not be able to speak again. And lo and behold, you come through that without the side effects. What has it been like challenge wise to balance taking care of yourself and your family and ministry?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's a balance that I still working through every day. It's definitely um, given me a much higher appreciation for the time I get to spend with my family. And I would say point blank, there are times where if a family thing or a ministry thing is happening at the same time, I started choosing family things more often because I want that time. We don't know how much time I'll have with my kids at the level that I'm at, so I want to take as much of that time as possible. So there was, a step back in ministry in some ways, but also we'd actually left the village where we were living. This is a couple of years back now to move back to Bangkok, and all of this just kind of served. This is not in any church planting manuals or books or anything. It's like have a health crisis and leave, and then the national partners will, have no choice but to continue on the work. You're talking about leadership transfers and stuff like that. But it's been it's been actually really amazing. Our partners on the land, the farm and church that they have out there in the village is going strong, and they're doing such an amazing job. So one of the things I've been able to do is just to kind of continue to connect them with other Christian workers, other missionaries that are in the area. And so now most of my work in Bangkok is based around the country. Well, I'll help encourage the other missionaries we have that are in different cities. So just like short trips out to travel and stuff like that, but not so many late nights anymore. Once you're, maybe that has to do with our kids waking up at 5 in the morning. I don't want to hang out with college kids until midnight. So when I get that 11 o'clock call, you want to go watch a movie? I've learned how to say no, which is a good word. but but yeah, I mean, there's so much going on. After being here for so long, there's a lot of ways to continue to serve, to continue to love on people. And again, it's been so amazing because we always have this vision when we're serving, when we're sharing, it's us, we're doing the work, we need to perform. And there's so many missionaries who get burnt out by that, right? Or lose sight of their faith because they're so worried about building the kingdom that they forget about the relationship. To be able to have to slow down and to accept help from others and to accept like being ministered to. I feel like those disciples and Jesus is washing their feet and just saying like, enough, no, I'm good. And just it's humbling in a way. So I think there's a interesting side of ministry that I've never seen before, to be on the receiving end, both of even my local, my Thai friends and other expats and missionaries here. It's been a really sweet time but also just coming to slow down with God more often, which is something we can overlook pretty easily in our busy lives.
Yeah, and through the Facebook page Ben and Suzi in Thailand, you have been prolific in sharing what your what your heart's feeling and the pain that you guys have experienced, including one of those indescribable sadnesses, those agonies in the loss of a child. And Ben, if we had Susie sitting here next to you, it would be interesting to hear if you both had the exact same answer. But when moments like that take place and the grief is really massive, overwhelming, how were you ministered to to get through those moments? Because, like you alluded to a moment ago, there are instances where you have seen people just shut it down and just say, I'm out. I can't keep doing this. And you guys you continue to serve, and nobody on the planet would have blamed you if you'd have said, we've given everything we have, and right now we need to shut down for ourselves. When you walk through your own personal physical issues with the surgeries and those things that are still a part of your world, that's one thing. But when it expands into the entire family and this impact, especially on your wife, I have to think it takes that commitment question to a new level. Is that a fair way of putting it?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, we were there in some senses. It's not we're gonna grit it out in Thailand because you know we know we're called here. This is where ministry is. We have to stay here. There's a lot of practicalities about it too. Our lives were built in Bangkok. Our best friends were in Bangkok. Our biggest support network was in Bangkok. And in a lot of ways, it was a really, really good place to heal. And we had some amazing community. Um, no, I've heard this story. It's pretty recent. It was kind of an anecdote from church. Somebody was sharing it. They were counseling a guy who was feeling just couldn't shake this, his despair or something, just kind of lethargy in his life. And as he was going through counseling, the thought dawned on him. He just looked and he said, I don't know if there's a person on this planet that's praying for me. Not one person was praying for this person. And I just thought, what a sad place to be. And
Hmm.
I know that there were days that my towel was thrown in. Like it was I had nothing left in my own power. I didn't have the answers. I couldn't fix things, and I was, yeah, I was pretty much there. And I still say it's because so many people were praying for us and sharing our story that like the sustaining power of prayer of the saints, I think, is the only reason that I'm where I'm at today, that our family is where we're at today. And I mean, such an amazing story of just redemption, restoration, and uh, joy to be where we're at. That we're, even talking to Susie tonight, like we feel like you know, we don't deserve that. That verse always comes back to me when David is crowned king, and he just says, "Who am I? What is my family that you have brought me this far?" And that verse just like hit me like a ton of bricks. I just, when I think back at when things were getting better and the dawn was actually coming back, I'm just saying like, there was honestly a time I had no idea that the sun would ever rise again and that we would actually make it through. But we did, and God was faithful. And I think there was people praying. And I met somebody last week. I've never seen them before in my life, and they just said, "We've been praying for your family every day." I don't know how he heard my story, but I just like I'm just so thankful. I
Yeah.
mean, it's been amazing. So that's that's one way we've been ministered to. Absolutely.
As you share those thoughts, I I flash back to Friday nights and a song that I'm sure young people, by the time we finished singing it over all those years, young people thought this is the corniest song I've ever heard in my life, but it's called Press On. And you'd never sing it today the same way we did the orchestral soundtrack and all the things, but I can still hear it. I can still remember not being able to get all the way through it, even when I was young and hadn't experienced any of life's real challenges. And as you talk about making your way through what you just described, I just keep coming back to the reality of the message of that song that through the mountains and the valleys and through the peaks and the depths, in Jesus' name, we press on. And I don't know, there's a timelessness to the message of that old corny song. I think Selah updated it a few years ago and did a really good job with it. But I still, I'm kind of old school enough that I still like the choir version. And I know you were on that platform singing it as well. And now the story of the Ben and Suzi family has a new chapter coming. You and I are talking at the very end of January, but in a couple of months, there's a new chapter coming. Can you bring us up to speed on what's happening?
Yeah. So 2010, so I've been in Thailand now pushing 16 years and 13 years for Susie. We will be heading back to the States at the end of March, and for a short furlough. But at the time, and at this time, we don't have any plans to come back to Thailand to continue ministry here. So the big news is that we're planning to move back. We'll be back in Grand Rapids most likely. We don't know exactly what I'll be looking for work, so I don't know exactly what job will land. Got some hopes and some ideas, but I'll continue more in a part-time capacity with ABWE and hopefully connecting with our national partners, especially Jack and Luke Blah that are on the farm and some other local missionaries that we know here in ways that we can continue to support them and be their advocate in America. So yeah, I think we're ready. It's time. It wasn't born out of this crisis. It wasn't born out of like you know sadness or that we couldn't despair or anything like that. We actually were in a pretty good spot as a family and thought this is what God has for us in the next step for our family to be back in the States. So we're coming back full of excitement, coming back ready to see what doing ministry and missions has always been my passion. I've been working my passion for 17 years. It'll be very fun to be able to do my passion just because it's my passion. It's what I love to do. So I'm sure we'll be looking for opportunities in that
Well,
direction as well.
yeah, so Ben, there are a lot of people listening to this podcast from all sorts of professions, all sorts of backgrounds and different industries and corporations, whatever. Uh, and they just heard you say when we come back, we'll be looking for work after we get through the furlough. Can you kind of give broad framework for what your dream gig would be? Maybe somebody out there is thinking, I like this guy and I'd like to have him working with us, but we don't know if you want to be a farmer or an astronaut, right? So there's got to be
Yeah, that's fair.
some dialing it in.
That's fair. I think I always have worked with younger people, so if there's anything in student life in any capacity would be very interesting to me. And I've done a lot of work with just like mission and vision, not just statements, but for me, I want to find a place that I say I want to wake up and make sure that this vision is fulfilled. I want to keep this mission going, and I'll pick up hand tools. I don't have any skills as a handyman right now, but plumbing, HVAC, why not? So I most of my experience is a lot in like more management and operations and things like that. So just being a cog that is there for the encouragement of everybody and to push the mission and vision of a place that I just say, I love what this place is about. I can't wait to bring my family along for the ride. So,
Hmm.
I mean, my education's all in international business and seminary. So those are my only credentials besides the work that I've been doing out here, but
Yeah.
I'm open.
Can't wait to see what the Lord opens up, what door he opens up for you. It's going to be
Yeah.
really cool. Um, Let me circle back around to the broader Collins world. I would love to have you share a few thoughts on the impact in your life that your dad and your brother and your immediate family have had through setting an example, through encouraging, through praying, through being there when you just needed somebody to talk to and who would understand it, kind of a thing. I was thinking at some point David might pop in here to surprise you on the podcast, but let's start with him. What's first thing that comes to mind first from a Hiawatha standpoint when I say David's name, and then just kind of from a brother standpoint.
Oh man, from a Hiawatha standpoint, he was a full of energy, wasn't he? I always followed him around, tried to do whatever he was doing. Um, so yeah, as a brother standpoint, I'm excited. He's back in Grand Rapids as well. So is PJ, and so are my parents. So that's kind of place number one. We'll get there, and when you get enough Collinses in one place, something's gonna happen, right? So I feel like let's just get that recipe going, get it cooking, and then something's gonna brew. Uh, Hopefully it doesn't blow up. But I mean, my dad they only just retired from ABWE, and so he had his fingers in Asia for a long time, and he would come out. Him and my mom would come out very often. So he's been with us through a lot of our ups and downs, a lot of our big moments and sadnesses and everything. It's been really cool. He's probably still one of my closest friends. Tried to get him out to join me on here too, but he wouldn't do that. But yeah, so my dad, I still look up to him all the time. Can't wait to spend more time with him when we're back in Michigan, and just to see so much of such a faithful example of living out something he said. This needs to happen. This is obvious, and his love for people is always the thing that's influenced me the most. Just seeing the best in people and wanting to bring out the best in people. How can we remove obstacles so that this person can be running full force, full speed? And I love that he was always turning the knobs to try to get people working better together, loving each other more, and with less stress, less anxiety, all those kinds of things. So that's been something I've appreciated about my dad for a long time. David's still he's just a natural leader. He just it's one of those Saul things. He's sometimes a head taller than everybody. He's got that voice that people just want to listen to,
Hmm.
and so he's still got so many opportunities to use his voice, use his life to share with people about what God's teaching him, share with people about his whole story and everything too. I think him and I were always very, very close. When we moved to Pennsylvania together, PJ stayed at Cornerstone in Grand Rapids. And so David and I have spent a lot of our formative years together. And I mean, that's immediate family, right? But when you think of Hiawatha, people always thought everybody was immediate family from Barkers and Petroviches and everybody. When we weren't all, they're all the cousins, but they're as close as brothers, thick as thieves.
Yeah, for sure. And when you get back to the States, there will be an in-person podcast with multiple Collinses around a table. I cannot wait until we make that happen. Um, as we wind down our time, I'm going to flash you back now to just your mental images of key Hiawatha moments, whether it's in a service or on the ball field or the tiny basketball court or wherever it was that you experienced. When you're kind of when you're putting your head on the pillow at night and your snapshots of Hiawatha pop in, what are two or three of those snapshot moments that you just have clarity when you see them in high definition quality in your mind?
Yeah. My brain is just flooded with like a million things all at the same time as soon as you say that. One of them is probably a picture of the sky getting closer and closer as Dan Stat and two other people have just triple blobbed me. And I think I'm still going up. I think part of my heart is still going up. And apparently I did some amazing flip or something. It was not on purpose. So
Stuck the landing.
that's one of them. Yeah, that's one of those things that I don't think I'll ever forget. But the most exhilarating and scariest thing at the same time. Uh, but I mean, those every Tuesday night, I think that my first chance is to actually counsel somebody who's really looking you in the eyes with like a true, okay, I get it. Some of this stuff is corny and can't whatever, but like looking in the eyes and like I'm actually going through something. And when it gets real, and there was so many of those kinds of moments. I remember all those Tuesday night messages, flies in the ointment, it's all hiding behind the baggage. What's your baggage? What are the flies? All those kind of things. But seeing people say, I'm I'm serious. This world's a messy place, and gunk builds up, and we want to clean things out sometimes. And um, it used to, most of the fireside times, people say, I want to read the Bible, I want to pray more, and I mean, good for them. So many people wanting to make that kind of commitment. I remember that, and right now, if somebody I said, "What do you want to do, Ben?" I'd probably say, "I want to read the Bible more. I want to pray more." And it's so rooted. So I have a lot of funny memories, but I'm not sure if the statute of limitations on most of them are up or not. But I still have the picture of Chandler finally, he's with Justin in the canoe in the lagoon, and finally they've caught that snapper that I've been talking about. He's been chasing it for years.
A legend.
Pib is holding it in the net and just gets in his mind he's got to lift it into the canoe. And Chandler thinks he's joking. He's in the canoe with him, and Chandler said, don't do that. And what? Justin says he's lifting the thing up, and Chandler starts screaming. Next thing you know, the canoe's capsized, and Chandler's holding on for dear life. And I see Justin's head come up out of the water, his eyes saucers. I've never seen eyes that big before, knowing he's in the water with the Wampa Mama, biggest snapping turtle of all time, within feet of him. And I don't think he actually got above the water, swimming back to the canoe. And I don't think I've laughed that hard since seeing that. Nobody was injured in the process. But I mean, for me, there's so many moments. I don't know why I can still remember so many of the special music, so many of the songs. Like Greg up there singing two sets of Joneses, and Chandler and Blythe would Go and Sin No More, and just some of these songs that like I still sing to myself much later. I think those moments of being able to hold such silly, crazy, fun times, and then when it's time to get serious, like let's get serious. And I think that's probably maybe the number one thing that I've brought with me from Hiawatha is to be able to. You got to be able to laugh and enjoy when the time calls for it, but get serious when the time calls for it. Get serious. That the whole grounds was just screaming like, "This is good, but get away, get serious." And so I think that constant call to like, I was a natural extrovert, but I would still walk into the woods by myself and just say, I just need this moment to kind of sit. And as I've grown older, I've enjoyed those moments more and more.
Yeah. Well, I can't wait till you get back. So thankful that the Lord has preserved you, literally, through all of these things. And maintained your zest for serving him and for loving him. So give a hug to that dear lady. And I know that there's a whole lot of planning and logistics, literal packing, and figuring out all the journey side of these things with kids who have not lived in America. So all of those things and the cultural readjustment and all of that in the job search and all of those things, just know that there are a lot of people who have heard this conversation and will be praying for Ben and Suzi and their family. And if any of you out there on the west side, or I don't know if it's geographically specific, but if you have a job idea for Ben when they get back, reach out. We'll connect you with them. And wouldn't it be awesome if somehow the Lord carved a unique pathway from a podcast to a new career path for Ben and Suzi as they continue to serve the Lord in whatever capacity He has in store for them. So, Ben, thank you, man. It's great to see you. We love you
Oh,
guys.
it's been so good.
Can't wait till you get back.
Yeah, thanks so much. I was going to say, if you turn the camera around, you'd see 6 packed bags right now ready to go. So,
Never too early to
uh,
start.
thanks for reaching out. You can be sure I'll reach out when I'm in Michigan for sure.